Hello friends, how are you today? So, do you have this question running through your mind? Okay, we've got the fall season. We want to make all these wonderful dishes and desserts. And then we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and I want to make my pumpkin pie and my apple pie, but it is costing me so much. So, I have a little trick for you to bring down the prices in one area, and that's concerning spices. Now, if you've checked this year, the price of spices that we normally use for this holiday season are really going up. So I thought to myself, I am gonna come up with my own recipe. I think it'll be cheaper if I buy all the individual spices than just buying the one. So one of the ones that I want to share today with you is pumpkin pie spice, right? Pretty much the majority of us love pumpkin pie. And I told my husband, we were in the grocery store the other day, I'm like, hon, go, I can't find any pumpkin pie spice in the spice area. Look on one of the end caps, because that's usually where it is. So he found it and he came back and he goes, like, do you know how much this is? It was like almost $6 for a little container. So we were looking at some of the other spices that go. I kind of Googled to see, okay, what goes in pumpkin pie spice. So it's basically cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and allspice, and I think some of them take cloves. So I'm like, you know what? I have some of those at home already, and also I can buy some new ones because those are, I buy just the little bottles. You know, you go through a lot of it if you're making a lot of holiday desserts. So they were like two something. They were under $3. So yeah, I spent more in the long run, but um, I can mix it up and then it'll end up being less in the long run because I'm gonna go through a lot of spices. So let's go and get this started, okay? So basically, just a few things you need is a bowl. You need one of these little whisks to whisk everything in, measuring spoons. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna store it in a jar. You want an airtight jar, but I'm gonna even narrow it down a little bit more for you, and you probably need a funnel. So yeah, let's get started. So I've wrote down my recipe so I won't mess it up, because I have a habit of talking and I don't always do my ratios correct because I forget where I'm at. So we're gonna do, and there, if you Google this, there are a lot of different, well, there's variations that might have more or less of one ingredient, but this is kind of a basic ingredient. So we're gonna get 3 tablespoons, and I have my teaspoon out, so we need the tablespoon. So we're gonna do 3 tablespoons of cinnamon. And I don't know about you, but we always have plenty of cinnamon in the house. That's like one of the staple spices because we put it on our oatmeal, we put it on our breakfast. Well, like if we're having oatmeal or um, cream of wheat or something like that. So we'll use 3 tablespoons of that. Yeah, we put it on our peanut butter toast. We make peanut butter toast for breakfast and put a little cinnamon on top of that, a little honey. Oh my gosh, it's so good. All right, so we're going to use 2 teaspoons of ground, and it doesn't matter what brand you use. This is what I usually use most of the time. And we're going to use 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. 1. It gets a little clumpy, but that's why you definitely need to whisk it well once you get all your spices in there. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of nutmeg, ground nutmeg. This time of year, I sometimes will buy this if I'm going to use a lot of nutmeg. Otherwise, I use the nutmeg seeds. I guess it's a seed. And then you just grind it on a micro grate it on a microplane. But today we're just going to go ahead and use this already ground nutmeg. And we're using 2 teaspoons of that. And you want to check your spices because a lot of us sometimes, you know, if you don't do a lot of baking, you might have these in your cupboard, but you know, it might be from 4 years ago, and the potency and yeah, it's not going to be there, and your recipes are not going to come out that great. So now we're going to use a little bit of less of the allspice. We're going to use 1.5 teaspoons, and I'm not like being super accurate as far as like leveling it off. You don't have to do that. So we've got 1/4 teaspoon here, so I'm gonna just do 2 there. So, and then we're gonna use 1.5 teaspoon of cloves. Cloves is very potent, so you want to be careful with that one. So we got one teaspoon and 2 1/4 teaspoons. And I'm not gonna overdo it on those. Sometimes some of my spoonfuls are a little more heaping than others, but cloves. So we're just going to take that, whisk it together. Get all the little lumps out of there. I could use a bigger whisk too if I needed to really get those clumps out, but the ginger is usually the culprit, that ground ginger. It smells really good. It smells like fall. It smells like Thanksgiving. Pumpkin spice. Yay! So, yep, we're going to take that. And then what I'm going to do is I already took these little snack baggies, and you can't see on here, but I did write with a pen. If you have a Sharpie, I just don't know where my Sharpie is, but I wrote pumpkin pie spice, and then I did the month and the year, so that if I have any left over, I know when I made this and how old it is. I said that's kind of important because you don't want to use really old spices. It's like, what's the point? Because you end up spending money, good money on your other ingredients. You're gonna make this delicious, homemade pumpkin pie or pumpkin cake or pumpkin bread. You want your seasonings to be fresh and So I didn't even need my funnel. If I was gonna put the whole thing in the jar, I would use the funnel. But yeah, that's why I love saving these jars. These are from like I make a lot of homemade pizza. Aren't they the perfect? They're like little mason jars. And I just wash them through the dishwasher. Soak the caps in good soapy hot water. And I use them for all kinds of things. Use them for overnight oats. So I'm just gonna put that bag in there. And I probably will just go ahead. I'm going to now make an apple pie spice because we use that for a lot of, and you can use it for apple pie if you want to make a coffee cake with apple pie spice. But let's go ahead and do that. Now, I will tell you on research, the apple pie spice has more variations. But I'm going to go with something real basic, and I can always add to it. I did see that some had optional clove and ginger. I'm gonna opt out on that one because I feel like with apple pie, or if you're doing something like that, simpler tastes delicious. So I'm gonna go with that. We need 4 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. I said this is the apple pie spice. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 teaspoons of ground nutmeg. See, and I have some that also have the allspice. I don't know. I might do allspice too because I do like allspice. So we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of that. Or no, this is almost made a bad mistake. That was the cloves. Let's do the nutmeg. Some people don't like nutmeg. I have a friend, she does not like nutmeg. So if you don't like nutmeg, you can leave this out and just put like allspice, which I think allspice does have nutmeg in it. Actually, you know what? Let me look. Let's take a look while we're here, right? I don't see it on here. Maybe it's its own. Oh, it says brown from whole allspice berries. So I stand corrected. All right. So I put the nutmeg. So let's put that aside so I don't re-enter. And then cardamom, ground cardamom. I like cardamom, and this is another spice. Like you either love it or you don't. You got to be careful not to overdo with cardamom either. I remember one time making these cardamom cookies, and I just overdid it. So we're going to use 1 teaspoon of that. But I feel like cardamon's always a spice maybe that people don't use too much. And they're like, when it's in their recipe, they're like, what is that? I like the smell of it. And let's see. I guess that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to put the allspice in this. Because you know what? I just wanted a basic starting spices for my recipes, and if I want to doctor it up, I can. If I want to add a little bit more of this, if I want to add it smells pretty good. I don't know. Do I want to put the allspice in here? That smells good too. But I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm giving that a good stir because I got a couple little lumps. So then when you go to make your recipe and take how many teaspoons of seasoning and measure it out, it's probably like, how many is there? Let's count. So I didn't count on that other one. But, you can make a few pumpkin pies with that. And you've saved yourself a little money. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I probably got like 9 teaspoons, just about. Not quite full 9, but like 8.5. So there we go. So that's the apple spice, pie spice. And so if you're gonna make a few apple pies there, and I'm gonna put it in the same jar. Just have to make sure if you do that, make sure you wrote on your bag. Otherwise, you're like, what spice is what? And then I'll put that in my cupboard. And then I just want to talk to you a little bit about your pumpkin pie mixtures, because we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, and I want to every week give you some little information to help your Thanksgiving prep come along and to give you a stress-free plan of executing your Thanksgiving dinner. So what I do is I use the pumpkin pie mix. Now, this is the pumpkin pie mix. Now, I've been doing this for a few years now, and let me tell you a little story about my pumpkin pie episodes. When I was first starting out, newly married and young, lots of energy, I was like, I'm gonna get my fresh pumpkin out of the field and I'm gonna cook it down and I'm gonna make my own pumpkin pie right from scratch. Scratch. Well, I learned that you can't just use any old pumpkin. I thought, I'll just buy a big pumpkin and I'll peel that sucker down and I'll chop that up. That was a lot of work, let me tell you that. And not only that, The big pumpkins are not what you would use for pumpkin pie. I didn't, it was trial and error, um, because they're, I don't know, there's a lot more liquid in it. It's a lot more, yeah, it's a lot of liquid in it. It's not as flavorful for pumpkin pie. So I cooked that up, I boiled it up, I mashed it up, I added my seasonings and all the other stuff that you would make for apple pie or pumpkin pie. But it really, the texture was way off. So I was disappointed. And I think I tried that a couple of years because I'm like, well, maybe there's something I can do. But I was young and we didn't have the internet back then. So it was like a lot of trial and error type of thing. And I was newly married somewhat, and we didn't have all those. We had cookbooks, but we didn't have a ton of cookbooks. We didn't have a ton of resources. Because we were young, young. I mean, we're talking in my 20s, early 20s. And so we just didn't have the resources for all that. So little trial and error, but that's how you learn. But I found sense, and when I don't have it right here either, you use the smaller pot. If you want to make your pumpkin pie from scratch, you can do that. But you're going to use those smaller pumpkins, and they're called, I think they are called a pumpkin pie pumpkin. Hold on, I'm gonna go get one because I have one in the other room. Yeah. So this is what they look like. It is called a pie pumpkin. And it tells you on here, you just cut the pumpkin in half, remove the seeds and the strings, and bake face down on a foil lined pan for about an hour. Cool and scoop out the flesh and mash until smooth. And then it gives you the whole ingredients to make a pumpkin pie. This is what you would use um, for a pumpkin pie. Much better texture, much better flavor. And I haven't done this, but made a pie now ever since that experience years and years ago. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. And I moved on to this because I was like, well, I'm going to buy the pumpkin pie or the pumpkin. It's pureed pumpkin. I'm going to buy that and add my own seasoning, and that's fine and good, but you just want to make sure you get the ratios because I like my pie really nicely seasoned, maybe a little bit over. Um, and um, if you're testing and you're trying different ones, if you're not consistent, you might not be satisfied with your finished product. Now, my mother in law, she always used the easy pumpkin pie mix. And I think she did add a little more cinnamon to it because she loves cinnamon. But you know what? Hers was, she always made pumpkin pie, and she's not really, she will tell you she's not a cook or a baker, but she made her pumpkin pies were always so consistent. And sometimes that's what you're looking for when you're trying to make memories, have a Thanksgiving meal. You want to, like, I don't know, when you sit down, you're like, okay, this is like I'm commemorating every year. It brings me back to other times with family, and you just want, you want what you want. You want that familiarity. At least that's what I like about the holiday. So I highly recommend this because I switched to this and it took out I could count on this being, and they're not paying me, but I could count on this consistency of how my pumpkin pie was going to turn out. That being said, I'm also a person that likes to try things. And I will say something since I got this pumpkin out. I'm going to make some appetizers coming up in the week. And I'm going to roast a pumpkin, and we will use some of that roasted pumpkin for some of our appetizers. Something with sage. So that gives you a little bit of look into the future. And I make a delicious pumpkin soup, and we can use this roasted, and the depth of flavor that will give that soup. That's awesome. So that's a little bit about pumpkins, pumpkin pie. And then I just wanted to share one more tidbit with you today is like we look everything up online, and I'm not opposed to that because I totally do it too. But it is always nice to have a cookbook. You know, we don't. They're so resourceful. So I got to share with this little story. So when I first got married, a dear friend of the family, she was an older lady, well, older than I was because I was 20 years old when I got married. But she gave this to me at my bridal shower, and she wrote a little note on her. Lady's name is Judy, and she's just a wonderful. She was a wonderful role model and influence in my life. And anyway, she gave me this Better Homes and Garden all-time favorite pie recipes, and there is so many kinds of pies in here. Well, it automatically turns to the pumpkin pie, but yeah. So it has just all kinds of pie recipes: berries, apple, cream pies, pecan pies, custard pies. This might probably is not even in print anymore. What I'm just saying is, it's nice to have something you can, put your hands on, and yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. And then I just had a couple of, you always go by. This is an old one too, but I've kept it because it had some really nice recipes. But when you go to the grocery store and they've got all those little, check through and see if there's something. There might be a recipe in one of those little cookbooks that you're just gonna love and you'll use from year to year. So I kept that because I like some of the recipes. And then um, you know, we're not talking about Christmas today. This is all about holiday baking, and all kinds of breads, crumble bars, brownies, all kinds of cookies, pies, specialty pies. It's just nice to have that to go back to, and you want to make something a little bit special. Then you have these resources right ready for you, and they give you inspiration too, something you might not have ever thought about. So, and you can leave them on your coffee table. That's what I do when it gets to be pre-holiday seasons, and I'll pull out these books year in year out, and I put them on my coffee table. And after, when I'm sitting down at night, after I've done the whole day's work and done the dishes, I like to sit there and go through these, and I'll pick, like one or two cookie recipes I'm gonna do for the holiday, or I'll pick a pie, a couple kind of pies. It's like, this year, I want to do something different. So then it's just fun to sit and relax and look through and see what you have. So that's some of my tips for today. I hope that was helpful to you, and you'll be able to save some money with your spices that you're going to use for the holidays. If you go ahead and try this tip, let me know by putting a little spice emoji. I don't know what you can put a little pumpkin. If you do the pumpkin pie spice, go ahead and put a pumpkin emoji. If you do the apple spice, go ahead and put a little apple emoji, and let me know what kind of struggles or obstacles you have in hosting Thanksgiving dinner, or uh, you needed some tips in certain areas on that. Just let me know in the comments, and go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button, please. And that will help you to see my videos when they come out. So it was great helping you today. I'm so excited about this little series I'm going to do and getting you ready to host a stress free Thanksgiving dinner. Till next time, bye bye.